Hello everyone and welcome to the Women's Soccer Show. I'm Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are in international break, baby.
I'm always excited for international break, but really, this is the biggest one because this is the last window before we play the tournament of all tournaments.
The World Cup, yep, this is it. This is the final. Get your practices in, cement your lineups.
Yep.
Let's go.
So full disclosure here, everybody. We are recording this on Monday because it gives us enough time to let our beautiful Brighton fan of an editor, Mike, release it on by Wednesday morning. But what that means is that we're going to not be talking about the Tuesday games. There's a lot of games that's happening Tuesday, including Canada, the second England game, the second U.S. game. But we are going to be talking about the first games, the first U.S. game, the first England game, and kind of in a broader way, the bigger points as it relates to the lineups. So both the games and the bigger points that we can extrapolate across all of the games.
So starting off with our first international game, what a scorcher it was. It was the USA versus the Republic of Ireland. It ended 2-0 to the USA. However, if I was Ireland, I'd feel a little hard done by that scoreline.
Yeah, I think hard done because of the penalty that shouldn't have been a penalty kick. Even as a US fan, I was watching that and I was just like, I was screaming at the TV, like, that's not a foul! So, look, did the US deserve to win? Yes. Did Ireland play incredible? Yes. Should it have been maybe 1-0? Yes. Or like a 2-1, but that's, I think, I agree, more indicative purely because that penalty should never have been called. But I guess while we're on it, thoughts on that fact that Lindsey Horan was like, this is mine. I'm going to redeem myself within a week of what just happened.
You could so tell that Horan was like, I don't think she's normally the US penalty taker. I don't know if you have one, but
she has been taking them. But also I'm like, no, she specifically was like, this is my ball. And you know what? It wasn't that great of a penalty. She was kind of lucky that it went in. But you know what? Going in is going in. And she probably got her confidence back for that. And that's fine with me. But what I really want to talk about before we get into the game is Sinead Farrelly. I think it just warmed everybody's heart to see her making her Ireland debut. For those who don't know, she's dual citizenship. This is her literal debut for Ireland. She hasn't even been technically fully approved by FIFA yet, but I mean, it was just so great, and what a full circle moment kind of to be on the field against the US. And some of the US players had some beautiful things to say about her. I just want to read Alex Morgan's because anybody who's watched any of the documentaries knows that Alex Morgan was actually a really big part in that at Portland when Sinead Farrelly was going through everything, and Morgan knows her well. So Morgan said, quote, "She's the Sinead I remember playing with on the Thorns. I'm just so impressed with her." And I love that we're keeping it about soccer. You know, Morgan was asked about it and she was like, yeah, she's balling out on the field. That's basically the extent of what she said. And I love that and I appreciate that.
Exactly. So you know she's going to baller for Gotham. She's now got some international stripes behind her, and it couldn't happen to a better player, is the honest answer.
Couldn't agree more. And I love what you said about her love of the game. She had a really quick quote about it. I just want to read it because I think it's important that it came right from her. She said, quote, "I don't want to lose sight of why I came back to play. It was just to have the game back in my life, and I feel that joy and passion again, and I don't want to attach myself to any outcomes." So that's essentially in response to being asked about, you know, a World Cup roster, and she's really just saying this is about the love of the game. And I fully appreciate that. But let's talk US versus Ireland.
I have to say, this wasn't the greatest game for the US. This is why I'm saying it was a 1-0 game. There were moments of brilliance and there were some moments of like, why you guys are the world championship? And then there was...
How many times are we allowed to say that until that's just how the US plays now? You know?
I feel like for a year we've been... heart attacks.
Yeah, I feel like for a year we've been like, there were moments, but there's a lot of things to improve on.
I think your back line, where we've been talking about how strong it's been,
yeah,
it was shaky, and that came from your goalkeeper.
So we've talked, so that's interesting because I actually don't think it was I think Alyssa Nair was shaky. I completely agree. She seemed a little off. It wasn't the Alyssa Nair we're used to seeing in goal for the US, and that's fine. It happens, right? You can't have a great game every game. Better to get them out now. That's what I say. Shake them all out, and then there's no bad ones left. I agree that Alyssa Nair was shaky, but let's just jump right into it. I think this is like a tip of the iceberg as to what the bigger problem that we've been seeing with the US. And we've talked about this before, Allie. Ireland had a lot of chances, a lot of opportunities, and I felt that as the US has been struggling to maintain possession, particularly in the first half and maybe into the first 60 minutes of the game. And that leads to a lot of Ireland chances. But I don't think that it necessarily comes from the shakiness of Alyssa Nair. What it comes from is this low block that we've been talking about, Allie. And right back to the problem with the 6 and the 8 and who's playing the 6, but we don't have somebody who's playing the 6 who can cover all that ground on defense. So what ends up happening is that the 8 drops back down, right? The outside forwards drop back down. All of a sudden, we're in a low block.
So you got no one pushing. Yeah, you got no one pushing
exactly.
Forward.
Now, the low block is really hard when you get possession to maintain possession. And I think that that's why we saw the shakiness that we saw from the US, and it all stems from that. And it's fun in this game because we got to see it change when Julie Ertz came on the field.
The only number 6.
And I almost felt like I was watching the game and was like, this can't already be changing. But genuinely, the moment she stepped on the field with the amount of ground she's able to cover, she frees up the 8 to go play offense. And what do you know? All of a sudden, we're playing in in the US attacking third for the last part of the game because she enables us to do that.
Yeah, it was very much like, this is the piece you've been missing. And I know there was a lot of controversy about her getting a call up. I, for one, wasn't happy about it, if the honest answer, because...
You weren't happy about it?
No, because she's just walked straight back into the US squad with that. She hasn't got a club yet. She hasn't got any of that, she's not gone and done what Morgan did, which is go and practice some time on a cold day in England, which is what Morgan did for Spurs.
Yeah.
And then to go straight into a US national call-up, it was... Yeah, I know it's needed, but, there is protocol.
Yeah, I'm glad we're talking about this because I think that there's a lot of different sides of this story. And I think that the majority of people, I mean, including me, but I think that I also see it from a lot of different points that I'll come on to because I actually think that there's more to this story than just, oh, here's a player, exactly what people are annoyed about the U.S. about. Here's a player who just gets to waltz on to the senior national team after not playing for 2 years because of her name and because what she's done, and not because of playing her way on through the NWSL, through the WSL, through whatever club team, right? That's what people mainly get annoyed about with the US. Am I wrong?
True. Very true.
Okay. So I get that. I totally get that. And there's other pieces to it. Namely, one, what you just said, this is very necessary. Yeah. Number 2, and that's no disrespect to anybody that's been playing the 6 because it's been going fine and it hasn't been going great enough that Julie Ertz is still not in people's minds. Like, she was still on the tip of everybody's tongue when everybody was like, but does she play soccer again? I would love if she does, right? But this is just like a long runway to say, here's the other piece of it that makes it more interesting. The U.S. signed a CBA recently. And within that CBA, you know what I'm going to say. Within that CBA, there are a lot of labor laws, shall we call it, parental leave, maternity leave. And one of those is you can't be, quote unquote, fired from a job because you got pregnant. And when Julie Ertz got pregnant, she was a part of the U.S. national team. And so technically, legally, they have to bring her back in to where she was when she decides, I'm back. Does that mean they have to roster her? No. That does not mean they have to roster for the World Cup. But actually, Vlatko Andonovski was asked about this point blank in a press conference I was sitting in on. And he was asked, is she here because of talent and skill, or is she here because of the new CBA? And he said, both, to be frank.
Okay, but we have to talk about the big news story that came out of this game for the US.
No, let's keep it positive for a second.
No, just briefly. We have to talk about it, which is Mal Swanson has injured herself and it's not looking great for World Cup, is it? Like, Vlatko's pretty much...
Oh, that's a kind of way to say it. Yeah.
These tears can heal within like 3 to 6 weeks. Depends on how severe the tear is.
That's if it's a minor tear. It does not seem like it is. I was watching it with a friend who's a doctor, and when it happened, she was like, oh, that seems like she dislocated her kneecap. Lo and behold, you tear your patella tendon. That's what happened. And so we were kind of like, yeah, if we could see it happen on TV, I don't think that's a minor one.
No, it's not great. And so that's a huge blow for the US, and it's a huge blow for Chicago as well.
Yeah. Look, it's really, there's no words to say how disappointing it is. Mel Swanson was at the absolute top of her game. It's disappointing for her as a player, like to watch her as a young player, but essentially like the prime of her career, at the top of the game she's ever been. She worked so hard to get back here. It's a few months before the World Cup, and this happens.
Last set of friendlies, yeah.
So incredibly disappointing. It's disappointing that after what seemed to be a knock to the head in a friendly, she got put back on. And I'm going to say right now, like, I am not drawing that line. I'm not saying this is Vlatko's fault. He shouldn't have put her back on. Otherwise, this wouldn't happen. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that
protocols were not followed.
It seems like, somebody who's had a lot of concussions, maybe she shouldn't have gone back on the field. And Vlatko is being very careful in this second game with a lot of players not playing them. I think he maybe learned his lesson.
Another thing I have to quickly say about Vlatko for the US before we move on to Ireland, which I thought leads us nicely on to Ireland, is that they had a set piece ready to go that meant that Becky Sauerbrunn could get her first international goal.
You know what? If the US lose the World Cup, but Becky gets a goal, everybody's going to be happy. It doesn't matter.
Ireland was so good that they couldn't pull it off. Those were his words, that they were like, we've got this play that Becky's going to get her first goal. And Ireland were like, not today, Sauerbrunn. Not today.
All right, really quick before we move on to Ireland, I just want to call out Emily, Foxy Fox, with that first international goal. I love that it came from her at the right back. Truly, the back line that we saw here for the U.S., I fully believe will be the starting back line in the World Cup. Emily Fox, Naomi Girma, Becky Sauerbrunn, and Crystal Dunn. That's what it's going to be. It'll be interesting because O'Hara's not in the fold right now. She is, but she's not even rostered for this second game. I'm just going to put a cap on it for the U.S. overall. Was it their greatest performance? No. Does that matter? No. Because this is still, it's getting better and better and better every time. And I don't want to hear anything from anybody about, but it's Ireland. We're going to talk about Ireland now. They are good.
I was going to say, I don't want to hear that either. Like, if I hear that, then like, no. Because the Republic of Ireland have qualified for the first time for a reason. They are one of the most solid teams right now. And you look at the talent they've got in McCabe, in O'Sullivan, in Mannon, in Quinn. There is so much talent in that Irish team. I do want to call out Tobin Heath for not warning her teammates about Katie McCabe. Like, that's cold, Tobin. That's cold. You played with her for a season. You know what she's like.
Katie McCabe was in full Katie McCabe mode. Yes. It was so great. There was a moment where it looked like Trinity Rodman was going to try to fight Katie, and I was like, don't do it, Trinity. You clearly don't know what you're doing right now. Do you know who this is?
You can always tell because McCabe will go for the ones that have got the shortest fuse, and you see it in the WSL all the time. And like Rodman, she clocked Rodman and was like, "That's it. That's the one I'm going for. That's the one I'm going to."
Oh, so good.
And I was punch up.
Let's talk about Ireland. Let's talk about Katie McCabe, because I'm happy with how the U.S. played, and Ireland, frankly, like, I'm going to call them a disruptor for this World Cup. They are a team that I could see beating absolutely anybody in this World Cup and surprising a lot of people. They are sneaky for a small country, the amount of incredible talent they have. I mean, we just talked about Katie McCabe. Denise O'Sullivan, one of the most underrated midfielders in the NWSL, in my opinion. Aoife Mannion, Louise Quinn, like the list goes on. And let's just rave about this performance from Ireland for a moment and this team and what they can do.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Like you said, they are a disruptive team in the fact that I can see, I don't know if we're talking about World Cup for a bit, I don't know if I see them get out of the group stages, But they are going to be a team that will disrupt the favourites, and I can see them playing a huge role in affecting like how different teams come out of their groups, which eventually is going to affect who's going to win and all of that.
I suppose that's kind of what I mean by a disruptor. Yeah, they can affect anything. I'm actually going to pull up what group they're in, because why not? We're close to the World Cup. Let's talk about it. We've got Australia, Ireland, Nigeria, and Canada. I mean, yeah, they couldn't have been in a tougher group.
No, but and we'll get onto them very briefly, how Australia are playing, they can affect how the host nation might progress and stuff like that.
Hey, you never know. Like we said, they're sneaky. They could pull out a draw against Australia, a sneaky win against Nigeria, and a win against Canada, and see what happens.
Yes. So I don't want it to be like, oh, it was only Ireland. It was like, you fought hard for that victory, USA, and don't you forget that. Like, put some respect onto Ireland's name.
Put respect on both of your names, because that was a great game. All right, let's go around the world, international edition. Around the world, around the world.
Over to Australia. Australia narrowly lost to Scotland 1-0 on Friday. A goal from Nicola Doherty in the 46th minute. With just 2 more friendlies before their home World Cup and the majority of their starters on the bench, is now the time for experimenting?
Over to France, a thrilling win for the new French manager, whose team came from 2 goals behind to win 5-2. Amongst the goal scorers was Les Sommer, who scored a brace within 3 minutes in her first cap for France in 3 years.
Spain, victory for España over Norway this week, winning 4-2. A great indicator for the World Cup for the Spanish side, less so for the Nordic.
And finally, over to Jamaica. In the strangest of international friendlies, Jamaica took on Sheffield United. The Reggae Girls took the tie 2-0 with Bunny Shaw, of all people, getting both a goal and an assist. Who else but Bunny Shaw?
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to TotalFootballAnalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
And that's it. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk England. We're going to talk England versus Brazil. Finalissimo, where England was able to take it on narrowly on penalty kicks. I got to admit, I was watching this game and I didn't know.
You were cheering on Brazil, weren't you?
Of course I was. No, I wasn't. I actually didn't have a dog in the fight. I was just really excited for this game because of how well these teams match up against each other, how different their style. This game, like soccer and just like tactics wise, was what I was most excited for. No, what I was going to admit is that I forgot it was the Finalissimo and I turned it off after full time. I was like, that's a draw.
And you call yourself a women's football reporter.
I was like, you don't admit that on the podcast. I was like, whatever. It's just whatever. I watched the penalty kicks like 30 minutes later online. But let's get into it. So England took it on penalty kicks. And this was, there's a lot here, Allie. There's a lot here on both sides of the ball, to be honest.
I'm going to use an old football cliche, which was, it was a game of 2 halves. Because it was.
You know what? It does apply here.
Fair
enough.
Because first half was England, all England, like, doing England things that they've done under Serena, and then the second half Pia went right, changed up the formation, and England did not know what to do.
Yep.
And completely flummoxed England, and so therefore it was Brazil second half.
Do not underestimate Pia Sundhage, what she has been able to do with all national teams that she's coached for, and especially I think my favorite is what she's been able to do with Brazil. But yeah, like you said, they went from a low block, they changed out of a low block, and boy did that work for them.
Yeah. England were confused.
Absolutely, to say the least. So let's start with England.
Yeah, let's talk about England. Okay, so there were some great positives. I think Mary Earps had an absolute blinder of the game. I don't blame her for the last goal because, frankly, her defence should have done better.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, technically, did she bobble the ball? Should that have been a clean catch? Yes. And also, that goal had been building and coming.
It was
for
coming,
Brazil for 45 minutes. It was going to happen. And especially in penalty kicks, Mary Earps showed why she is at the top of her game right now. I mean, we're talking about Mal Swanson as somebody who, it's just the definition of like, wow, you are really like, this is the peak of this woman's game. That is Mary Earps right now.
Yeah. So please, can we bubble wrap her? Mark Skinner, if you're listening, can we please bubble wrap her? But yeah, and she made sure we stayed in it till the end. And like you said, some of the save she made in the penalties was just out of this world. So
yeah, some of them. All right, so let's go with the game of two halves. Let's talk about the first half here, because there were a lot of positives that came out of the first half for England, and they looked like the dynamic, just clinical team that destroyed the Euros. And so let's take the positives from the first half. What did you see?
So I'm starting to see that the front three is really cementing themselves with Hemp, Tooney, and Russo. Like the way those three play and interchange, and like obviously Russo and Tooney play with each other at Man United, but Hemp is getting onto their wavelength and it's just beautiful fluid football. That front three. Who else is going to be up there? I mean, Lauren James is giving compelling arguments why it should be her. Obviously, we're starting to give Daly the chance to be the striker.
I was going
to
say this is not a done deal.
You've got Chloe Kelly,
throw Chloe Kelly into the mix. Always underrated, always stepping up in those moments. Yeah. Do not underestimate her. I mean, the unfortunate part about being able to step up off the bench is that Serena Egman might just keep her in that position because she can. That's definitely not a reason to, but I mean, the amount of talent in that front three, you're going to hate me for saying this, but it's the equivalent to the depth of the U.S. that the U.S. had in the front three in 2019. It's just the reality of it. It's just the reality, and that makes them terrifying.
Yeah, and we've also got to talk about midfield because we had Walsh and Stanners who were, again, reading each other beautifully. They're doing the thing that I've talked about for the US needing to do with the 6 and the 8, and just the way they play is just...
Yeah. Georgia Stanway is my favorite number 8 to watch right now, I think, in the world. And her part of it is her work rate, but part of it, it's just... Yeah, I mean, the England midfield is kind of unmatched, and any midfield that's led by Keira Walsh is going to be. And that was on full display in the first half.
Let's talk about the goal. So, the goal was a proper team goal with Bronzy doing what Bronzy does best, running down that and controlling that wing, pinging that ball to Tooney, and the rocket that Tooney let off for that goal. No keeper was getting a hand to that.
No. It was beautiful. It was a gorgeous team goal, and that's why I equated to the clinicalness that they had in the Euros, where they know where they're going to be. And that's, let's just shine a light on the midfield again. This is the midfield pulling all of the strings and orchestrating everything, and that is why they're such a hard team to break down. But Brazil really did so in the second half. I want to talk about what went wrong for England, but also what Brazil were able to do that put England on their heels.
You said it before. They did the thing that the USA had tried to do when they moved out Juliet's, which is they started off in that low block, that real defensive, pulling everyone back, trying to stop England. And when they realised that didn't work, because obviously we've got players like Stanway, like Tooney, that will shoot from range, so it doesn't matter how many players you've got back in your own third, because they're going to break down. I think Pia went, right, well, we're going to go on the offensive. We've got nothing really to lose. Now we're already 1-0 down. This is how we're going to get a goal. And it worked. And I don't think England are used to having teams go at them like that. It doesn't happen very often. Germany did in the Euros final, but that's the last team that I can think of, really.
It's funny because I actually think of I actually can think of, I feel like quite a few games where, I mean, even the Spain game in the Euros, England was the one who had to sit back and let Spain dominate possession. And it seems like that's a space that they're actually a little bit more comfortable in. But perhaps this is a team that got comfortable being the champions of the Euros and being able to attack teams who saw what they were able to do and decided to sit back more. And, you know, we talk about these friendlies as wanting teams to get that challenge that they need before they hit the World Cup. And this is it. This was exactly it for England. Because I also am going to call it a mentality piece. Like, I think that it hit a little bit of complacency with England. And I think people are going to be mad that I'm saying that. But, you know, you win a title and you're the favorites in the World Cup. And maybe there was a little bit of a complacency mentality going into halftime, knowing they're in a low block and saying, well, we can just sit. We can just possess. That'll be okay. And getting caught on their heels for that reason. That game was not in the bag. And talk about teams that should not be underestimated. Brazil is at the absolute top of that list. And I'm so happy that Pia decided to get rid of that back five. I think that the worst thing you can do to a team like Brazil with the creativity, with their triangles and their 1-2 touches, I mean, the way that they're able to combine is different and unlike any other team. And to put them in a low block and say play defense it's like a tragedy for soccer. It's like a shame for all of us soccer fans. So I love that Pia was just like, go for it. Let's play the way that we're gonna play. And I hope that we see them just attack in the World Cup, because they're going to let in goals no matter what. That is Brazil. But they can score.
Yeah, I think their biggest problem that they had, and the reason why it took them so long, is that they had no sense of urgency at all that first half. They had no sense of urgency. There was no thing. And then once they got that, and they got that sense of urgency, then suddenly they were running the England midfield that we talked about, that strong midfield of Walsh and Stanners, absolutely ragged in the mid in that second half. But it just took them so long to get into that flow.
Yeah. I will say I think that they were also missing quite a few key players. So the fact that they were able to hold on like this against England, I mean, I'm curious, do you agree with what I'm saying? That it wasn't really tactical from Serena. It was more of a mental piece. The fact that England didn't know what to do in the second half.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It confounded them. I do think, though, again, England were missing there was so many key players missing in this.
I do think that Millie Bright's absence was felt.
Yeah, that's who I'm on about. It's Brighty at the back. Because I think they pulled Leah Williamson in too many directions. Because Leah is captain, so therefore has to oversee every player. I feel like when you've got Brighty at the back, she can sort of be like, right, I can let my defenders go because Millie will sort them out. Whereas I think her attention was stretched too thin over every player. So just not having that knowledge and that solidness in the back.
I think that there's something to be, I mean, this is why you don't split up center back pairings. You know, that back line was starting to get really comfortable playing with each other. And how comfortable is Alex Greenwood playing with Jess Carter? Probably not that, right? So, yeah, it is what it is. But I think that brings us on nicely to a lot of what's come out since the game. Frankly, in my opinion, super weird timing. Yeah. All of this about Steph.
Yeah, Steph Houghton. Okay, I am going to say something that is probably going to get me a lot of hate from Man City fans.
Do it.
But I'm going to say this now.
Do it.
Someone needs to call time on Steph's international career, and I don't think it's...
Well, I think Serena already did that.
No, but she hasn't. That's the problem, because what's been said privately, we don't know, but in the press conference, she's like, oh, we're not going to do it now, but there's always a chance. There is no chance, because for Steph to get back in that England squad, you have to have an injury to Williamson, you have to have an injury to Bright, you have to have an injury to Greenwood, and Woober Moy, Carter.
But what do you mean by call time? Like, what is that? That's not really what happens. I mean, like, look at Tobin Heath. She got injured, and then, like, we're all just like, may the odds be ever in your favor. Goodbye. We're not giving you a send-off.
But they need to stop giving Steph hope, because the problem is Steph will never call time on her own career.
But what are they doing to give her hope?
Just then, like with Serena in the press conference being like, it's not going to happen now, but never say never. I'm not closing that door. Close the door, Serena. Let it be done.
No, she can't do that. She can't do that as a coach. I think this is, frankly, I think that this is unrealistic expectations, because you can't, as a coach, you can't ever close that door.
Though.
What if Alex Greenwood? What if Millie Bright? What if Leah Williamson goes down? Like, we just saw what happened to Mal. Like, she has smart to not close that door and step. This is what I fully disagree.
This is why I'm saying she has to, because let's be honest, Steph is never getting back in that England squad. She's not, because the fact that we saw it when the transition between Casey Stoney and her as captain, the friction was terrible for England. It was awful. We had one of the worst periods as an England squad ever, because there was two leaders butting heads. It's going to be the same again, because she's not giving that captaincy back to Steph. It's staying with Williamson. So, and the problem we've got is, and this is, I've been thinking about this a lot since I saw the comments. The problem we've got is Steph will never call time on her international career, because she's seen her peers win the Euros. Her and Ellen White played for years together. Her and Scotty played together for years. And they have got silverware that she doesn't have. So if she calls time on her England career now, her lasting legacy is going to be that terrible period with Phil Neville. That's what she's going to go out on. And she doesn't want to. I
fully agree with that. That obviously she doesn't want to.
So she's never going to call time on it, but it's cruel. It is cruel to keep leading her on, because I'm telling you now, Serena is...
I totally disagree.
Because Serena is more likely to call up a youngster. We're talking like Jess Park, Lucy Parker, Esme Morgan, all of these players.
Jess Parkin's centre back?
No, but
really?
You know what I mean? Like youngsters, like Jess Carter. She's more likely to call them up than she is going to be calling Steph, because it just doesn't work.
Okay, here's what I agree about. I have nothing but respect for Steph Houghton. She was a fantastic England captain. She has an incredible career. But this is completely on her to understand that Serena Wigman's words are the most she can give as the head coach, as the manager of the England squad. That is the most door shut words that she can possibly give, because she can't say it's over, it's done, I'm calling time on your career. Steph needs to call time on her own career, and it is on her to look at this, and it's either going to hurt watching the World Cup and then she's going to figure it out. She's going to figure it out now. I don't know, but it is completely on her to move on. It is the idea that the onus is on Serena Wigman to be like, hey, Steph, your career's done. I'm never calling you up. That's never going to happen. No coach in their right mind, especially with somebody who could come in and bring a leadership quality if needed. Like, God forbid, both of your center backs go down and you need that leadership quality. You know she's going to be the call, even if she's sitting on the bench, right? Sometimes that's what's needed. So no head coach in their right mind is ever going to say, I'm saying never, or call a player and say, this is me telling you it's over. That is something Steph needs to come to on her own. And I don't care that she made these comments. There are some people who are like, this is the wrong time. How could, like, it's distracting.
They're calling about entitlement and stuff like that. I don't think it's entitlement.
No, and she got asked about it by a reporter. She answered a question. Like, that is fine with me. And I get why she feels the way that she feels. And it's probably incredibly painful. And she had a great career, and she's on the backside of it, and that's going to be painful. But when she decides to walk away from the game, she's going to do it on her own terms, and it's kind of that simple. And she said what she needed to say, and Serena said what she needed to say, and let's put it to rest. Okay, back to Brazil and England quickly. Overall, final thoughts on either Brazil or England and what they're taking from this game going into the World Cup, because this was their second to last friendly.
That they need to be able to switch up much easier, because teams are going to work out what they've done. They are going to figure it out. And then to get so stumped so easily by the change of formation doesn't bode well. So, yeah, I think that's the big thing, is that, like, all these friendlies now, they are not going to be playing with Bright. Bright is still on crutches. It's not going to happen. So these are a good chance for friendlies to work out that back line and what they need to get that back line. They've also not got Greenwood because she's gone down because of a head injury. I think it was, she went down in the Brazil game. So it's going to be a good chance for them to work out worst case scenarios. They've got nothing to lose. They're friendlies, you know, so.
I completely agree. This international break has been eventful, to say the least. A lot of teams with, still something to work out for various reasons. For the US, now it's how do we replace Mal Swanson? For England, it's how do we play well in this final friendly and take that momentum into the World Cup mentally, physically. We can go on, and we're going to do a big World Cup preview. We're going to talk about all of this and more. But overall, Allie, this international break, almost more than any, has made me so excited for the quality and the level of play that we're going to see in Australia and New Zealand.
100%. This is going to be one of the best Women's World Cup. I have a strong feeling this is going to be one of the best we've ever had.
Best one yet, and you're not just saying that because you think England's going to win.
No, I'm not just saying that. I'm excited to see what, Canada can pull out the bag, what, this new USA.
What Ireland can.
What Ireland can,
Brazil, Australia, we're going to spend a moment on when we talk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. There are so many teams now that can pull something out of the bag and make it one of the most interesting, competitive, tactically brilliant World Cups we have seen so far.
And that is it here for us at the Women's Soccer Show International Edition. My favorite type. We will see you next week, as always, as the leagues pick back up. We are back to covering WSL, NWSL, and more. So for us here at the Women's Soccer Show, I've been Sarah.
And I've been Allie.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
This podcast was edited by Monkey Hill Media. Visit monkeyhillmedia.com for more information.